Good morning, KVEC region and all you great social studies teachers. This is a big week for us because this is Constitution Week. I wanted to get in touch with you guys really quickly to kind of talk about that, talk about some possible resources that you could use, and also to remind you about the statistics in the schools sweepstakes. Say that 7 times really fast. Few resources I want to talk to you about this morning. First one, of course, is iCivicsorg. This is one that I have recommended to numerous teachers across the region. Usually within a few days of recommending that, I get an email or a text back that says, you were right, this has some great stuff on it. So it just really depends on the needs of your students and the needs for your instruction. The cool thing about iCivicsorg, once you create an account and you kind of get in there and start playing with things, they are aligned to Kentucky's old standards. So you can still kind of play with those a little bit, but they have a great unit on, and it's actually called the Constitution. And then of course you have the road to the Constitution, but the one for the Constitution, you can actually go in there, and when you go in there, there's about 12 to 15 lessons. There are 2 or 3 games. There is one that's called Do I Have a Right, which is really interesting for your students to play, especially when they start thinking about the Bill of Rights and that kind of thing. If you want to focus on a different aspect of the Constitution for each day, or if you want to focus on just the Constitution itself, you have that option within several of these websites, but especially within iCivics.org. Another that you can look at for this week that has a really fun feature. I know many of you are familiar with the We the People program. Well, they have a civiced.org website that goes along with their materials, but as part of that, they actually have this great podcast, and it's called 60-Second Civics. Again, another one that's really hard to say. This is great for your students. It's literally 60 seconds, 1 minute long. You can use it as a bell ringer. You can go in and see what the question is for that morning. And speaking of which, they have a civic question that they start each day with. And then, of course, they have the podcast that plays underneath it. The podcast doesn't always go with the question that comes with it. So it actually gives you an opportunity to talk about some other issues that you may be teaching or that you have taught, and use those as a review with that question. But again, the 60 Seconds Civics podcast is phenomenal for students. Another website I recommend, billofrightsinstitute.org. They have some phenomenal materials as well. When you get to that website, you go under Educate, and under Educate, you will actually see Constitution Day 2019. Some great features there. One I found that was pretty interesting is called Madison's Notes Are Missing, which is kind of like a game, sort of, but most importantly, it's an activity that you can do with your students. I believe it's set up in 4 segments, so you can kind of go in and look at that and play with that. But again, some great materials there. And the last 2 resources to talk about right now, the first one is teachingamericanhistory.org. One thing that I like about that is that when you go in there, not only do they have opportunities for teachers to engage in professional learning on their own, they have some great seminars, some great webinars, and most importantly, like podcasts that you can listen to as a teacher to grow professionally, especially within your content. But they have sources and resources there for you to use in your classroom. One that they have featured this week, of course, and I think it's going to be up for a while, is called the Constitutional Convention. And you can go within that, and there are multiple activities and lessons that you can go in and look at and adapt for your classroom. But phenomenal. And again, because it is many times vetted. All of these that I've talked about today are vetted by constitutional scholars. Then you can be pretty sure that they're going to be to the rigor that you want to use with your students. The last one is also an opportunity for your schools to make some money. You're going to see another webcast that I'm sending out along with this email. So you actually have 2 about Constitution Day. But this one is with the census.gov. When you go to their website, you can actually search for statistics in the schools. And that will lead you to the Constitution Day materials that they're encouraging schools to use. If you go within there, you make an account, you use the materials that they have included on that website to teach the Constitution this week. Make sure you tweet it, you put it up there on Instagram, wherever it is that you use, Facebook, get it out there. But most importantly, when you create that account, they will actually tag your school. And if your school has the highest number of people who have registered and used those materials, or if you just your school looks out in the drawing. But once your school has someone in their school register, and this is all kind of complicated the way I'm explaining it, but once your school registers to use these materials as part of the statistics in the school's sweepstakes, then your school is in the drawing to win $500. But again, the more teachers that register, the more likely your school has a chance to win that $500. So I hope that that's not too complicated the way I have explained it. But again, if it is, please, I encourage you to go to the other webcast that is accompanying this one, because that goes much deeper into the census and why the census is so very important, especially to our region. I really encourage you to watch that. That was a tremendous discussion that day with Diana Anderson and Michelle Ellison. And those are two, and because the census is coming up in 2020, and we as historians, we know the value of the census and how important it is to us and to our nation. Other than that, happy Constitution Week. This is a really big week for us in social studies, as I said earlier, and I'm right down to my red, white, and blue fingernails. So tomorrow for Constitution Day itself, September 17th, I will have on my red, white, and blue. You guys have a great week. If there is anything, again, I can do for you, remember it's kimberly.surgent@letcher.kyschools.gov, and we'll holler back at you real soon. Thank you so much.